globe-trotting photojournalist. She began her travels to the world's hotspots shooting the faces of war, drug addiction, and death when she was only 22 years old. Her findings are in a book called Shutterbabe, Adventures in Love and War. Deborah Copaken, good morning. Nice to see you here. Photojournalist, feminist, and yet you call the book Shutterbabe. Why?
The idea was, when I first started photojournalism, I thought of myself as this kind of superhero, full of hubris, full of naivete, and by the end of the book, you realize that that superhero is smashed. I smashed a couple of idols. I mean, I feel like that was the idea of what I was going to be doing, and at the end, you realize it's a completely different job.
You talk about your profession in the book. You also talk about your personal life in high school and homecoming queen and Harvard and all that thing. And as you begin to introduce the reader to your professional ambitions, you also, at the same time, introduce us to your relationship with men throughout your life. Why the connection between the two?
Because I'm a human as well as a journalist. I felt like we hear all these journalist tales of heroism, and behind each journalist is a human being. Also, I've been attacked by a number of different men at various times in my life, and yet I'm not a man-hater. I mean, men have played a very important role in my life, and my husband certainly, and my kid is the name of the last chapter. I think everybody focuses on the fact that it's been named about men, but it's really a book about a journey to motherhood.
As a matter of fact, though, you do name the chapters after a man in your life, each chapter that had some influence on you. First chapter I want to talk about is Pascal. Guy who was a Parisian photographer, invited you off to Afghanistan to photograph the Soviet troops pull out. What do you remember most of that time?
Oh, I just remember being incredibly cold. I remember being inside a cave and having the Mujahideen talk about the Salman Rushdie affair, and I had no idea what was going on. I remember a man whose leg got blown up by a mine, and I remember getting beaten up by Pascal, and that was also part of the story.
As a matter of fact, Pascal, once you got to Afghanistan, you said, let's go to the front, let's watch the pullback. Pascal basically abandoned you.
Left me, yes.
So you had to go make your contacts on your own.
Yes.
At one point, the Mujahideen took you to an area where they were holding children who were sick, but they wouldn't let you shoot their faces.
Right. I didn't really understand. I never understood exactly what was going on. The language barrier was always a little crazy. They thought there'd be Soviet spies, and they'd see that there was a journalist there and that I would get captured. I never understood that.
In Zurich, you met a guy named Pierre.
Yes.
What do you remember about that? I know you were there to shoot the faces of drug addiction.
Switzerland had a needle exchange program. It was one of the first ones in Zurich. And so I went to shoot the kids in the park called the Platzspitz, shooting up and seeing what the needle exchange program was like. I also went to Holland to shoot a bunch of heroin addicts there as well.
But you kind of went undercover. You pretended you were a student.
Yes, well, that was, you know, I'm 5'2", and I, at the time, looked really young, so it was advantageous to get in with the heroin addicts looking that way.
All right, let's talk about Julian. What do you want to tell us about Julian?
That was about a trip to Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwean government had a shoot-to-kill policy against any man caught red-handed with a rhino horn.
Poachers.
Poachers, yes.
And your assignment there, I mean, the people who were sending you there didn't only want you to shoot that story. They wanted to see the results of that policy. They wanted to see a dead poacher.
They wanted a dead poacher. And so that's when I first started feeling like a little bit like a vulture, like I was there trying to find somebody who was going to get killed. It was a really strange experience.
You're right. Instinctively, this is when you finally found a dead poacher. Instinctively, I grabbed my camera and started shooting, crouching and circling in a small orbit around the dead man, trying to get the best angle so that the bullet holes feature prominently in the frame. I circled the body again, my movements like feverish waltz, circumnavigating, twirling, whirling, spinning around and around. I am a vulture. I don't even try to pretend otherwise. Tough way to describe your profession.
Well, it was what I was starting to believe. Not always, but in certain instances, I did feel very vulture-like. Or you've seen, you know, the scene of an accident and people and cameras gathering around that. It looks very vulture-like. It's, you know, dead body on the street and everybody circling around.
One of the chapters in your book is named Paul.
Yes, that's my husband.
We should mention that this is perhaps the guy who truly got you to see things in a different light.
Yes.
You're married now. You have 2 small children. Do you miss the you aren't shooting as much as you used to?
No.
Do you miss the action, even the vulture-like action?
I miss what I did. I don't regret what I did at all, but I miss what I did and that excitement in the same way I miss my youth. I mean, I'm in my mid-30s now, so I look back with fondness, but no, I don't miss doing it every day.
You tell your kids about what you did and about the men and all that?
This is the idea of the book. I mean, the simple idea, what got me sitting down in front of a computer was I just had this feeling that my kids would find my portfolio in a closet and think, what was Mom thinking?
Deborah Copaken. The book is called Shutterbabe, Adventures in Love and War. Deborah, good to have you here.
Thanks a lot.
And up next, one woman's journey to preserve her sister's memory. But first, this is Today on NBC.